Hello everybody and welcome back to WoW Mods. This time around I'm sort of in between the Twilight Forest area and the Suramar area, and I'm right in front of the port. So this is one of the videos that I'll be releasing as I'm away deep to my trip across the world. So we won't be doing too extensive of a work, but we'll be working a little bit on the port. And we'll also be taking a look at some areas in the Twilight Forest. So right now, as we fly around and just take a look at this particular area, we know that we have to edit that somehow, and after that, come back and incorporate the edits that we did last time when we were working on Noggit, and there was also some additional work that was done to that as well. So hopefully that should all translate into what we're going to be doing for this particular session. I'm just wanting to come to these areas to show you exactly what it currently looks like. It's a bit plain. We don't have the details that we need, but we'll be implementing those and we'll be adding those to the patch very briefly. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and switch straight into Noggit. All right, and we're back. We're here in Noggit, and we're looking at a bit of what we edited last time, as well as some added details. We did a bit of work with the rocks. Oh, this one right here doesn't seem like it's quite up to snuff. So I'll just go ahead and make some modifications just to bring it into the fold compared to everything else that we have in this area. That might actually be sorry, that might actually be a bit too much on that end, but that's not a problem. We'll just fill in a little bit here, and we should be getting a little bit closer to what it should be. Perhaps what we're going to do is we're just going to raise it a little bit just to give it a bit more detail. There we go. Just lift a little bit just to make it a little bit more relevant, and there you go. So that's some of the work that we actually did last time that we were editing. I continue adding a couple of little details and whatnot, but right now what I want to do is I want to move into the port and see how I'm going to open up what used to be this sort of walled off area, which I'm now going to open up. I think that the first thing that we actually need to do here is level out this area. Oh, let me see here. I'm just trying to find the correct combination of keys here. I'm going to bring up elevation so that I can start evening out this entire area. So we're going to pick a relatively standard height. Just making sure that I have the right tool here so that we affect the area as it should. Okay, it's a little bit messier than what I would want. Let's try right now. Let's see, what are we going to do here? Let's take a look here, see if there's anything we can do on this other side. Okay. Doesn't seem like it. Just going to modify the brush a little bit. That's it. Come up in through these areas here. Just try and extend this, because this, as you can see, that area that is black is sort of the in-between line between the next level of elevation and the other level. So this area is a little bit higher than I want, but it's important to know that you'll never truly have in WoW truly flat areas. It's part of the aesthetic of WoW, and it's part of the design dynamic. Most people think about cities in a very flat way, but you will realize that there's a lot of inclines and a lot of like irregular texture, even or terrain elevation, even within a city. So that is definitely going to be interesting in that regards. Now, the next thing that we have to deal with here is actually this wall. And we're going to have to take this wall, flip it around, and we're actually going to have to, because it's a little bit too big, shrink it down. And that's it. Make it fit within what we think is going to be adequate. We're going to shrink down the neighboring wall as well. And here we now have, I think, what's going to be the opening, which is going to allow us to go into the town. But I don't want to spend too much time evening this out, so I'm going to put this into a little fast forward motion, so enjoy. All right, we're back, and I've done some fairly, I would say, fairly rough edits in the port area. This is more or less what I'm wanting out of this area, at least to this point. So we'll be possibly coming back to this, and well, not possibly. We will most likely and most definitely coming back to refine some of this, just to make it fit our idea of what this should be. So hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. So we're just gonna finish up just a couple of like little details that I wanted to put in here before we move on, just to do a quick surveillance of this area, and then we're gonna head back into the game and try and figure out exactly what's sort of going on. Okay, so we're going to come through that particular area of the city, and I think we would benefit from having one of these arcs there. So we're just going to move this down to over here again. We're going to drop it. And I think if we leave it like that... that might actually work. I thought about actually doing it smaller, but I think that might actually be quite beneficial. And now I'm going to go ahead and take the lamps which I've been hanging off of these things, and I'm going to have to take that, because some items sometimes they spawn right at the not the crux, but right at the plane of the ground, so they're buried, so you actually have to turn the ground off so that you're actually able to grab them. Right, so we have this here. It's a little bit different. It's not fully finished. There's a lot of details that I think I can still put into this area. But I want to go ahead and just roll with it for the time being, because I don't really have too much time to dilly-dally right now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to save this. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump on, we're going to put these maps into the patches, and then we're going to jump back into WoW. So see you there. So we are back, and this time around I'm just sort of hovering above the city, and I actually want to do the approach on foot, so I want to get sort of the full impression of what it would look like if we were actually moving to the port part of the city. Now we know that the back end, this area over here, there's not been much detail work done there, as sort of the same question on these sides. This area of the city has yet to be sort of more properly developed. There's some elements, but nothing really too serious. And now we're coming up to where the port would be, and we're coming into the area where the port would be, and voila, this is what we have. It's a little sparse, it's a little bit lacking details, and of course there's a bunch of grass just clipping through the actual floor, but that's to be expected. From here we can actually take a look at some other extended parts of the city. We can actually see the whatever that palace structure was meant to be. I forget at this time, and the fact that I haven't labeled the zones yet, but I have it in my design documents somewhere, so don't worry about that. Okay, so this here is the port. As you can see, this is the work that we did. From afar, it doesn't look all that bad, but again, from afar, there's always something to say. And once you get close, you really have to start trying to develop things with more detail. From afar, for example, it seems like there's nothing wrong here, except there is. So you always, and even this incline isn't correct. There's a lot of work that still needs to go. These are all fresh areas, and I'm recording them because, well, you know, I feel like most of you have enjoyed these videos and building and coming up with the terrain, and having to deal with that. So here we now have a little walkthrough from the areas, how they used to be and how they're currently standing. It's you know, a little bit more detail work has gone in. When we have the grass effect for these particular areas, it'll be, I think, a little bit more interesting to see exactly how all of this plays out. But so far, so good. I don't have any immediate complaints aside from potentially putting some roots on the bases of some of these trees. And now we can look from here and we actually see the port, the ship, the tower in the distance, and all the other sort of like small elements within this hill with the giant tree. And this is all pretty fine. It's pretty standard. It's what we were aiming for. But that is essentially the evolution of this zone, and it's just going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more, I don't want to say dedication, but a little bit more time for me to develop these things. So we might not come back to the Twilight Forest, and we might not necessarily come back to Suramar because I've already done plenty of videos regarding that. So we'll see what happens with the next edition. But having said that, I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you all for taking the time, for subscribing, for liking. Those are all really important things for me to keep the channel going. So once again, thank you everybody, and until next time, bye-bye.